Live on the beat is Trump defense lawyer Joe Tacopina. Thank you for being here and taking the questions.
Thanks, Harry.
Let's start looking at this case. You have these payments. You don't deny that Trump made this payment.
No, payments were made, obviously.
Right. Is Stormy Daniels...
I call them extortionate payments, of course.
We'll get into it, right?
Yeah.
So the payments are made. Is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
Is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
Yeah.
A lawyer?
Yeah, is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
I thought you were asking, is she a liar? Is she a lawyer? I don't think she's a lawyer. I don't think her lawyer was a lawyer either, but Stormy Daniels is not a lawyer.
So she's not a lawyer. And these payments were made. And they were, according to federal filings, classified on the Trump side as legal services. That was false, wasn't it?
The payments were made to a lawyer, not to Stormy Daniels. The payments were made to Donald Trump's lawyer, which would be considered legal fees. Michael Cohen, regardless of what we all know about him now, and hindsight is 2020, is a fraud, is a liar, a convicted perjurer, in the Trump world and outside the Trump world with the medallions and all that stuff, was his lawyer at the time and advised him that this was the proper way to do this to protect himself and his family from embarrassments. It's as simple as that.
And that money, though, just to be clear on this point, did go to Stormy Daniels, so it wasn't legal fees, it was a payment.
No, it went to Stormy Daniels first from Cohen. This was how Michael Cohen structured this, by the way, okay? It went to Stormy Daniels from Michael Cohen. He decided he was going to do it this way and asked for the reimbursement of what he billed as legal fees. That is not a crime. It's not a crime, and more importantly...
Well, I didn't, hold on, because we're doing this with piece-by-piece evidence.
Yeah.
I didn't say or ask if it was a crime. I'm just trying to get the pieces in place.
Yeah.
You seem to be putting forward a defense that's the kind we've heard from Trump before, that, well, other people are just doing these things, so he's not in on it.
And other people is his lawyer who was advising him how
his
to
lawyer
do
at the time.
and how to structure a settlement.
How to structure,
settlement. Yeah.
And so let's take a listen. I actually want to jump ahead to something we have. This is a Trump-Cohen recording where you have Trump in the room informed about the nature of some of these payments. Let's listen to this audio recording.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David. I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay for cash.
No.
When Donald Trump's talking to Mr. Cohen, as you say at the time, his lawyer, and is engaged and is saying yes and pay with cash, that doesn't sound like
of cash. It means instead of financing the payment over months or years.
Right, but
write a check.
Okay, that doesn't sound like someone who has a lawyer who's gone rogue. It sounds like someone who is using this lawyer to send the money to Daniels. And the problem potentially for your client in New York is whether this was misclassified, a.k.a. illegally written down as something it wasn't, as a payment for legal services.
What would be illegal about it?
Well, I could show you. I know you like to ask questions.
I don't know what would be illegal about it.
Here's what he was called in the federal case, individual one. Those were the Cohen charges. And you refer to that to say that that was bad for Michael Cohen.
That was campaign finance law violations, right?
Right. And here is
something that the federal government chose not to bring against Donald Trump.
Well, as you know, they were not allowed to under DOJ rules in a federal case while he was president.
Oh, and then he was not president, and they still haven't brought cases against Donald Trump.
This is true.
Thank you.
This is true.
Thank you.
Now, you asked about whether this would become a crime or not. And again, the authorities will determine that. But if you're making the defense, I'm trying to understand what the defense actually is, because here's how it was put by the feds. Cohen, with the assistance of Corporation One, arranged for the purchase of those stories to suppress them and prevent them from influencing the election. The new reporting is, and I want to get the benefit of your response, prosecutors could argue that $130,000 became a donation to Trump's campaign under the theory that the money was silencing Daniels, benefiting his candidacy. So two-part question. Why lie about this and why misidentify the payment if it was legal? And second, your response to that theory of the case.
A donation to his campaign by himself. Okay, that's what it would be. This is very different. Look, John Edwards, remember that case where a third party paid for John Edwards' mistress who was pregnant with his baby and all that stuff. That was a third party. That was a donor. Okay, he was acquitted, and the DOJ dropped all charges on the hung counts on that. This is different. This is Donald Trump paying with his own money. And here's the bright line test. And here's where this case falls miserably. And by the way, yes, I'm his lawyer, so you would expect that from me, Ari. But what you have here is legal scholars, former members of the Federal Election Committee have publicly stated there was no crime here, no campaign law violation. Because here's the deal. First of all, there's a crucial distinction between separating campaign funds from personal funds, right? And on personal fund usage, Here's the bright line test, and it ends this case. It ends any case regarding Stormy Daniels. If the spending or the fulfillment of a commitment or the expenditure would exist irrespective of the campaign, it's not a campaign law violation. End of story. This would exist irrespective of the campaign.
You're making a potential defense that he would have paid this out regardless.
It's not only would I say that, his lawyer at the time, who pled guilty to all sorts of lies and frauds, who's now a cooperator, said that under oath. He said that under oath.
Can you point to other payments that Trump made like this outside of a campaign?
During the time of the campaign?
Outside of that campaign year, in his other many years on planet Earth, has he ever made a payment like this?
I have no idea, Ari. I have no idea. But Donald Trump is a litigious individual who gets sued by a lot of people, okay, commences lawsuits, and all the time things are settled. I've represented hundreds of people in similar situations where they make payments for what's called a nuisance settlement. Look, $125,000 to me is not, I mean, to you it's nothing, but to me it would be important. But to Donald Trump, it's what's called a nuisance settlement, okay? And when you do that, it's to make a problem, an embarrassing problem, go away. It doesn't mean it's real, because he vehemently denies an affair, so it doesn't mean it's real or not.
Yeah.
It means you're settling something to not have to deal with the aggravation of it.
It sounds like a lot of money to me, and we've never, done that much together. But if you were at the early bird special with me, you'd know I like to keep things as cost-effective as possible.
That's why I have that big bank account.
But I'll ask you this. If all of what you say is true,
It is.
then why was Trump hiding it and lying about it at the time? And I'll play that for your response. He lied about it. We all know that.
When you
Take
say
a
he
look.
lied about
Take
it,
a look.
Let's see.
Mr. President, did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make this if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Ari, if that's what you're going to consider a lie. A lie to me is something material under oath in a proceeding.
Well, I didn't say perjury. I said a lie.
Yeah, but that's not a lie. That's
not a lie?
Here's why it's not a lie.
That's not a lie?
Here's why it's not a lie.
Did you know about this?
Let me answer.
Did you know about this? No, I don't.
No, we don't need that. Here's why it's not a lie.
Yeah.
Because it was a confidential settlement. So if he acknowledged that, he would be violating the confidential settlement. So is it the truth? Of course it's not the truth. Was he supposed to tell the truth? He would be in violation of the agreement if he told the truth. So by him doing that, he was abiding by not only his rights, but Stormy Daniels' rights.
It seems like we're drawing some blood here because you're having a strong reaction. He did lie about it, and in a confidential settlement, you can easily say, no comment, or I'm not getting into it. He says, and the reason why I look at this, he says, no, I didn't know about it. But he did know about it, didn't he?
But here's the thing. I don't know the timing of that video. I really don't. And I'm not trying to play games with you.
April 2018.
Yeah, but I don't know the timing of that video in relation to the timing of the other video where he was speaking to Michael Cohen. What was the date of that other video? Do you know?
Yeah. We have the Cohen recording. This was around the 2016 campaign pre-November. So that was 2018 later. The original conversations were in the fall of 2016. Yes, sir.
So obviously he knew about it, but what he decided to do was not violate the confidentiality clause and provision of that agreement, which was the right thing to do. So, yeah, he could have said no comment, or he could have said, I don't know anything about it, which is what he did. But that's the right. I would advise my client to do the same thing. He's speaking to some, whether it's a journalist or some young lady on the street.
September 2016 is the exact date.
But whether he's speaking to a journalist or some young lady on the street just shouting out a question, that is not the form for him to go into detailed questions about a confidential settlement agreement.
So let me tell you what I'm hearing, because, again, people deserve to know all sides of this as we go into what may be an unprecedented indictment of a former president or not. We don't know. We don't know. It sounds tonight like what you're saying. I appreciate you coming here and taking the questions. Not everyone does that. It sounds like you're saying you have a legal attack on the potential campaign finance violation, and you think you have precedent that helps you. For example, the federal Edwards case, which Jack Smith oversaw and lost.
Correct.
To make the point that you don't believe that is a tight, open and shut finance felony. That's number one. And number two, on the misdemeanor case, which is more legally minor, but is not zero, and you and I can point to individuals who've had trouble with misdemeanors. Sure. It seems that you're saying, well, yeah, he lied. He lied. It wasn't really legal services. Stormy's
I
not a
didn't say
lawyer.
that. I didn't
what
say
did you
that.
say?
I said his lawyer advised him to pay him his legal services.
And that money
he
went to
relied-
Ms. Daniels.
But the money went to Ms. Daniels before that. He was reimbursing his lawyer. His lawyer sent him an invoice for legal services. That's the evidence in this case. So he didn't lie. He
But
relied on.
it sounds like you're
counsel.
saying, one, not a campaign finance crime, and two,
not.
well, the misdemeanor, sure, maybe
But it's
he
not
lied
a
about it,
misdemeanor.
but you don't want to deal with the misdemeanor.
No.
You're kind of admitting part of the misdemeanor.
No, I am. Ari, please don't put those words in my mouth. I am not admitting. He's not
But
guilty
they
of
weren't
any
legal
crime.
services.
His lawyer classified them as legal services. His lawyer sent him an invoice for legal services. His lawyer told him they would be properly classified as legal services. He relied on his lawyer. But here's the thing. Even if you put in your checkbook, or I'll use me as an example. I put in my checkbook, I bought a car and I wrote, I purchased a horse.
Mm-hmm.
That's inaccurate. That's a lie, maybe. But there's no crime there because this filing was not for the purpose of influencing an election. There wasn't something being hidden. There was no obligation to disclose this to an election campaign committee at all.
Well, I suppose the question then becomes, did any company owned by Donald Trump or controlled by him or Donald Trump personally tell the government this was legal services?
I'll tell you why.
Because that would be false.
Right. The government being the United States government, the answer is absolutely not. And here's the thing.
So can you substantiate that?
3 years. First of all, I don't need to substantiate anything. They need to substantiate a charge, right?
Well, in a criminal court of law, that's true. Sure.
Here we are.
They have the burden.
Here we are.
Well, he's not charged
We're
yet.
not talking about traffic court. He's not charged yet, but I don't need to.
But you sound like someone who's bracing for a charge.
Only because I'm listening to this stuff. I still hold out hope that they're not going to do this because I think this will be an enormous stain on the legacy of that district attorney. Look, for the last 3 years, they have scoured every record of Donald Trump. They actually, this Pomerantz in his book wrote.
I'll give you one more. I'll get to Pomerantz.
He wrote in his
I will
book.
get to that.
Okay.
So we're going to close this out on the facts, as I said, and then we'll turn to what I think you've raised, which are fair questions that the DA should face. Before we turn to that, your colleague went in and made a case to the DA. Can you tell us anything about that? A case against indictment.
First of all, the point person on this case has been Susan Nicholas.
Yep.
Who's one of the top lawyers in the city. I worked with Susan. We've known each other for many, many years. So she's been interacting with them, number one. Number two, this has not been a tell us what you think and we'll tell you what we think sort of relationship. Okay? We are shocked that this has gotten this far.